Aloha everyone, this is Stephanie with Stephanie in 5D, coming to you with a video about Kuan Yin and about compassion. So we're going to do a Kuan Yin reading. I have these beautiful cards, the Kuan Yin Oracle, who's that by? Alana Fairchild, and they're just really beautiful cards. So before we get started, I want to say thank you. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing. Thank you for hitting that bell button. All those things are a free way to support my channel and help this information get out there to everyone. So before we start the card reading part of it, I want to talk a little bit about compassion. So in the last few weeks, the energy has really been about integration. I've taken a class on symbols with Brother Keone, who owns Pohala Fern Medicine. So really beautiful. So it's Pohala Botanicals. So if you're interested in fern medicine, absolutely shout out to Brother Keone with that. It's very, very useful. But we were going through the matriarchy, patriarchy, and the combination of the androgen. And what I was feeling with bringing out the matriarchy, Kuan Yin came back in for me. I was gifted years ago the Kuan Yin statue from an estate sale, and I loved it. And I had that for many, many years. And then it made it from Texas to Hawaii with me and on different moves. And then the end of last year, it fell off a table and broke. And so I was like, oh, okay, that energy is breaking up and it's a new energy coming in. I've always felt connected to Kuan Yin because Kuan Yin's story, she has many different stories, but one of her stories is about compassion. So Kuan Yin was a goddess who decided that she would come and give up being a goddess so that she would stay with the people and have the compassion until the time of suffering had ended. And she's also the goddess of fishermen and other things. But it was the compassion piece that has always resonated with me, both within and without, right? So compassion within self, but also compassion to others. And the question I've been asking myself lately, now that Kuan Yin has shown back up, and this time on a dragon, she's in her form where she's riding the dragon and holding the lotus. And it is Year of the Dragon, so the compassion has returned. We have had a lot of astrological energy lately, and that energy has been big movements, some of it volatile, some of it quite transformational. Timelines are jumping all over the place. I have found myself jumping in and out of time and timelines. So if you've been missing things and then they turn up later, you're likely jumping timelines. There's a lot of that happening at this time. And what I noticed is some old patterns within myself of really isolating self and going into a process of beating myself up, not having compassion for myself. And I wouldn't treat people outside of myself that way. It's like I've always given so much compassion, sometimes on the rescuer side of compassion, and there's different forms, and we'll talk about that. But haven't always given it to myself. And so we have to give ourselves compassion first. That way it can be complete, right? So compassion is incomplete unless it includes yourself, unless that you can be compassionate with yourself and with your process. We are experimenting being human, right? It's not who we are. We have a body, we have a beautiful human avatar, but that's not the who we are. It's not the spark of light that we are. And so in this form, in this human form, it's good to be compassionate with self and others because we are going through an evolutionary process and we're changing. So I always thought of compassion as being almost where you are empathetic with the other, right? Where compassion to others is, wow, I know that they've really gone through this suffering. Let me help them. Let me love them. Let me give to them and nurture them. Compassion for self. Let me be both compassionate and graceful to allow myself to ease those higher edge feelings, the angrier pieces. Let's nurture self and regulate. And that is a form of compassion. Compassion can also turn into the martyr. So some will take compassion to its extreme and become the martyr, where you're saving and rescuing other people and actually limiting their progress, right? Because a martyr will martyr self in order to make help, or they feel like they're helping, but a lot of times it's when helping hurts. There's a book out there, I can't remember who's the author, and it's called When Helping Hurts. And compassion at its extreme and its distortion can go towards being the martyr and thinking that we're helping, but actually robbing other people of their lessons and of their ability to find their own self-worth, their own strength, their inner God self. And so that is one of the detrimental forms of compassion. Now, one of the forms of compassion that is one of the highest forms of compassion is what my mentor would call ruthless compassion. And what ruthless compassion means is that you love the person, that you have compassion and empathy for them, but you simply hold that energy and that space of love and perfection for them while they dig their hole and learn their lesson. And so it's more of a hands-off approach. This can look like, ruthless compassion can look like saying no to a family member who's addicted on drugs. It's saying no to enabling the other. This can look like having boundaries. This can look like seeing someone in need, but they haven't asked you for your help. And so you can't interfere. You could, but you would both have to learn that lesson again. And ruthless compassion actually can protect both sides. So you can do different forms of Ho'oponopono. You can do different forms of sending love, light, Reiki, whatever your form of energy work is to the other person. Absolutely. You can hold them in the highest light. But ruthless compassion takes a more physically hands-off approach and allows people to learn their lesson in the way that they're going to learn it without interference. And that sometimes is the harder thing to do, because it does require you to drop your ego and also drop the need for credit, right? Sometimes we do things for people and it's not really compassion or service, in that we want the credit for when the change happens or doing a good deed. And that has its place. But this is the time to move away from needing to have the credit or needing to be in the ego space, and allowing you to step back and actually be in the spiritual space of that form of divine compassion. And that says, that's deeming both self and the other that you're having compassion with worthy and strong enough to connect to their own now or their own intuition in order to access their own divinity. And you can be there to help and be of service. And so I've been noticing this at this time. And so there is value to getting help, and there's value to being with people. I had a session with my mentor the other day. I definitely needed it. I had gotten lost in the sauce, as it was, in my spiritual journey and also within myself. And so I wasn't treating myself very well. And I needed some help to guide me. She's not going to help me crawl out of the hole. Like, she's not going to do that, but she'll be there to guide me through this process. And I still have maintained my dignity and strength. So there's compassion. You can still work with people. So I just wanted to give that little bit of energy towards compassion, because it's really been on the forefront. There's so much integrating, and there's so much galactic light, informational light coming in. There's lots of transformational energy that is here. There's lots of evolutionary energy that is here. We have incarnated at a time of great change in this time of humanity. And we're accessing different parts of ourselves. We're accessing different lifetimes. We're accessing different codes, different existences. And that's a lot. And there's a lot of change happening in the world. And so especially with all the change and the different things that we see in society, media, and other types of formats, there is a lot of fear or crisis running. And this is the time to employ compassion and to detach, have that ruthless compassion, and say, I'm going to move forward on my path and be as genuinely me as I can be, as authentically me as I can be, as loving as I can be, so that I give that to the whole grid. Okay, so that's what I have been feeling, and definitely been going through a big integrative process. Let me know in the comments how things have been going for you over the last 3 weeks or so. What changes have you noticed? What ways could you employ compassion to yourself? And let's talk about it in the comments. I'd really like to engage with you, because as we're moving into these rapid change energies at a pace that is different than before, I'd really love to connect with all of you and move into this space where I welcome comments and welcome feedback, because we can work with each other as a community, okay? And so let's get to the card pieces and find out what Kuan Yin, what message she'd like to give. It doesn't have to be specifically about compassion. We're just going to bring her in. So I would like to ask Kuan Yin, my higher self guides, Amakua, all of those who have the energy like Kuan Yin, that divine feminine energy, any ascended masters that would like to assist in giving the message, please, let's invite you in today. Okay, let me just move this back a little bit. I got real comfy on the couch here, so I'm not on my usual set. And that's okay. We can be comfortable even if there's discomfort, right? Because there's really no crisis. Like, when we look around and think that there's a crisis happening, look around you and say, is my life physically actually in danger right now? If it's not, then there's no crisis. There might be discomfort. There might be annoyance. There might be, perceived needs, right? But no real crisis, unless there is. So you ask, is this threatening my life at this time? And that will help to release kind of that survival drive. Okay, so we're talking about that while I'm shuffling here. All right, Kuan Yin. We're just going to do a 3-card pool here tonight. Let's see. First one, Dynasty of the Divine Mother. Sound the Fierce Flute. And Immortal treasures. All right, beautiful. Let's, I'm going to read these to you guys. All right, Dynasty of the Divine Mother. The only wish of the Divine Mother Goddess is that all beings be spiritually free. The Divine Goddess calls us to realize our true nature, to fall in love with our own divinity. Enlightenment is a culmination of many small steps, each one as a drop of water forming a divine ocean of peace, realization, love, and unity within us, an ocean that washes away fear, separation, and scarcity, and bathes us in the abundance and bliss. You carry the torch of enlightenment within you, beloved. Let it shine each day. Okay, beautiful. So this is what we were saying with the compassion, and this is Kuan Yin coming as the Divine Mother, and that you too, male or female, matters not what your gender is in the body, the divine feminine part of yourself has that enlightenment, as does the masculine. You hold the keys to enlightenment within yourself. You hold the keys to joy and happiness and peace. And this is a call to release scarcity mindset. So that's exactly what we were talking about when I was shuffling the cards, is getting out of that survival mechanism and learning how to employ compassion and calm that nervous system, right? So that the inflammation, so that the cortisol, so that the other adrenal responses that happen when we go into survival mode can gracefully release and allow that process to happen instead of pushing against it. The next one is sound the fierce flute. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Yeah. It says discernment empowers you to make choices that are aligned with your spiritual intentions, like a fierce sounding flute cutting through all vibrations with purity and intent. Your discernment allows you to stay true to your values and spiritual destiny without getting caught up in distraction. If you wish to grow spiritually through love, joy, peace, and abundance, then discerning between higher and lower vibrational choices is helpful. All right, so Kuan Yin is reminding us first and foremost that the keys to our divinity is inside of us, and then next is discernment. Again, while we were talking about doing ruthless compassion, so you can step back and observe. And in that observance, you can go to the space of, is this a match or no match for how I would like to learn, for the life that I would like to create? And this takes away the judgment of good or bad, right? So we take away judgment. It's not good, bad, sad, whatever. Is it a match or not a match to who you are becoming? And that helps to shift you to the 5D perspective and move into the space of releasing the polarities. So you're discerning, is this the pathway to abundance? So you'll notice how you feel around certain people or when certain opportunities present themselves, because we're moving out of scarcity and we're moving into abundance. Abundance doesn't have the same sense of urgency that scarcity or survival does. So if you feel a sense of urgency that you have to make this decision immediately without discerning how you make decisions within yourself, right? Without discerning, is this a match or not a match? So just going with the flow because you feel like there's nothing else available is a scarcity consciousness, and it feeds into more polarity. And so this is saying to move into your discernment. And then we have immortal treasures as our last message. I like this flow that's happening with Kuan Yin here in her messages. Look how beautiful these are, you guys. Absolutely gorgeous cards. Okay, so immortal treasures. It says, you carry within you precious immortal treasures, beloved. They exist beyond life and death, belonging to the celestial, heavenly realms of divine presence within you. Kuan now guides you to honor these treasures, the gifts of your soul, which include the ability that you have to transmit healing. Honor yourself as a healer, beloved. Whether formally or informally, your soul brings a special healing light to humanity. You have divine support in your role as a healer. In whatever way, usual or highly unusual, that this is unfolding for you now. Okay, so some of you may already know that you're a healer, or my kahuna would call it a balancer, right? Because we're balancing, we're not actually healing anything, we're just releasing what is not us, what is not of our essence. And so this is saying, have the discernment, because your gifts of healing, that treasure of your soul, your celestial essence, your embodiment, you're going to be embodying that now. You're going to be having your immortal treasures that you can share with others. Your actual gifts and abilities are coming forward in a higher and new way. And often when these gifts and abilities come online, you'll have a lot of different people wanting that light and wanting the different opportunities from you. And this is where the discernment comes in. And so some you may have to say no. And many you'll get to say yes to. Okay, so discern, is this a match or no match? As much as we want to heal and help other people, you can't say no if it doesn't feel correct. And that may be the place that is great. And you can say yes. Okay, so even if you have a weird way or something different that heals or helps people, or just that your smile lights up the room, okay, that may or may not make you money. It may not be formal training. These are not about your formal training. This is about your innate gifts, your abilities. And so focus on what you have to give. That was in my session the other day with my mentor. And I feel like it's also a collective energy, is in this transition energy. Sometimes we can think of what we don't have or what needs to be changed, or focusing on what is, how can I be more or better, live my best life? What do you already have to give, right? What do you already have? And some of that's the simplest things. When I was thinking about what do I have to give, some of that is a smile. Some of that is volunteer help. Some of it is formal help or training. I've always had a gift with my hands, and I'm a licensed massage therapist. Haven't been practicing for years. I've brought that back online because this is a way I can give, and it's my talent and ability and gift, and how wonderful that I can now start to give that back to others again. So sometimes we get caught up in our process of change and forget the tiny gifts that we have that have always been part of our nature, right? The other thing is I cook really well. How wonderful that I can start to cook for people more often, right? So it could be little things. They just showed me art pieces or making, this is really specific, but some people like paint or make little like rocks or fairy like gardens, and it's kind of different, right? So it's like, I don't know why that specific thing came up, because it's like these little tiny fairy houses. So maybe someone watching, that's something that you're good at. But it just goes to show, even if it doesn't seem like it's a normal thing, it can be very healing for other people. It can make them laugh. It can bring about the change. Like I just had a big yawn. It can bring about the healing of relief, right? To let go of that, the energies that would bind, if it makes someone feel lighter or happier, or just some relief, that actually is a great way of healing, and you don't have to be formal with it unless you are, okay? So really beautiful energies here. This is a reminder to have compassion for yourself, have compassion for others, and the Kuan Yin saying you're coming online with new and remembered gifts and abilities of healing that you maybe haven't been using in years or never have used. And this is a time for discernment, okay? So you don't have to walk every path. You just get to walk your path. And so discern whether or not that feels abundant to you, okay? So that's what I have for you guys. Thank you for tuning in and sticking with me here on this one. Please in the comments, let me know how you connect with Kuan Yin. I would love for you to feel into this energy because it's gotten pretty high. I'm like having a hard time to see out of my eyes. So hopefully this made sense, the reading. But please ask inside yourself, have a little conversation with Kuan Yin, and share in the comments if you feel called to what your message is from Kuan Yin, and in what ways you have found the compassion within yourself, okay? So thank you guys so much. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, and until next time, aloha.